non-fungible tokens, NFTs, the technology that will revolutionize digital commerce forever. It's new, it's sexy, and it's on the blockchain. Look at that Ford Focus. Pretty cool, I know. But how about a picture of a lion in a cool hat? What about a house? I'd like a house. But what about some terrible pixel art? Or whatever in God's name this is? So what are NFTs? And why are they so expensive? NFTs are tokens that, in theory, prove ownership of digital media, like YouTube videos or a page of a webcomic, or a picture of a tweet from your favourite cancelled celebrity. Sure, anyone can download it, but you own it. After all, anyone can buy a poster of the Mona Lisa, but only one person can own the original. Except for NFTs, that analogy is not true, and is in academic terms f***ing stupid. An NFT, whether a picture of a monkey or a lion or a pink fairy armadillo, is just a receipt. A line of ones and zeros on the blockchain that says you own something, but the original is still on the internet for everyone else in the world to see, and download for free. £0 and 0 pence. But, you may say, that doesn't matter. NFTs are an investment. It doesn't matter that other people can look at the image, or even that the image is particularly nice to look at. The important bit is that you can trade your rights to it anonymously for crypto for a profit, which, until very recently, could be done tax-free. Certainly nothing abusable here. In addition, due to lack of regulations and the ease of making NFTs without the creator's permission, the community is also notorious for art theft. Including, in April 2021, the Chinese artist Qing Han, whose work was stolen by an NFT minter barely a year after she died from a cancer relapse. Oh dear. Now, look, I'm not here to shame. If you want to spend $80,000 on a cartoon chimpanzee, that's fine. Not like you're hurting anyone. Except you kind of are, champ. Before you can make an NFT, you have to mint it on the blockchain. In non-technical terms, a validation process that proves that it's legit. But this process consumes terrifying amounts of electricity. The minting process for this picture of a skull took enough energy to power a laptop for 1.5 years. The paper I got this from also references the French artist Johnny Lemercier, who sold 6 NFTs for a few grand in 2019. He then stopped selling NFTs after he realised that minting those 6 pieces cost 8.7 million kilowatt hours of electricity. Some in the crypto community have downplayed the environmental costs, saying they can make up the deficit with carbon offsets, and I feel it is my duty as a scientist to inform you these are not the kind of CO2 emissions you can fix by planting a tree every now and then. Oh, my house caught on fire. Hello, I burned down your house, but it's okay, because I'm gonna send you a brick in the post every other week. Oh, can you send me a new cat as well? Mr. Whiskers has gone all crispy. So, to summarise, NFTs are utterly pointless, terrible for the environment, and give the political elite yet another avenue for money laundering, theft, and exploitation of other people's work. Sounds like a really stupid idea, but people are making loads of cash off this. And I want in. And the only way to beat a really stupid idea is to have an even stupider idea. Alright boys, let's make some stacks. Introducing Ook2, my new range of NFTs. Monkeys in fancy threads. Here's how it works. I'm going to draw some monkeys, and for each one people commission, I'm going to donate more and more money to charity. The first Ook2 is going to start at £2. Then for each drawing in the series, I'm going to multiply the price by 2. So the next one will be £4, then £8, then £16, etc. But unlike NFTs, where something like this can sell for thousands of dollars, and something like this can sell for millions, despite the fact that both of them were generated in a computer in about 3 milliseconds, each Ook2 carries tangible value. For each pound in the price tag, I can only spend 60 seconds on the final piece. So the more expensive your Ook2 is, the fancier the final product will be. In addition, for each sale, I'll donate 30% of the proceeds to the RAINFOREST Trust, so instead of actively destroying the environment, your cash will actually be used to help preserve it. Now, once I print off this image, it is yours forever. On my Boy Scout honour, I will never print or sell another copy of that piece ever again. So you will have the only signed copy in the world. Then you can sell it for a profit, trade it, donate it, burn it, whatever you fancy. It is yours. But enough with the sales pitch. I've already drawn some. So let's have a look at some silly monkeys.
Draw a monkey petting a fluffy cat, both with the wrinkliest faces you can muster.
The first Uctu was a wonderful start to the challenge. With only 2 minutes on the clock, I managed to get the ink down very quickly. But in my hubris, I decided to colour my piece with a fancy pencil tool I usually use for commissions, with 60 seconds left on the clock. Needless to say, it wasn't the neatest colouring job I've ever done.
Oh, come to me on the day of my kitty's wedding day. Ah, shit. Okay, I fucked this. This is okay. Okay. Shit. I think that will do. Okay. Okay, that's not too bad.
With that, I had finished my first Uctu.
Absolutely flawless. I trust you're planning on firebombing a peat marsh for every view you receive.
It wasn't bad, the whole drawn by a 5-year-old look has a certain charm to it, but I knew I could do better.
What do you want your monkey to look like?
Make him dress like Ray Winstone. He needs a big old nose and a big old
A challenge, but I accepted. I had much more time to work on the colouring this time around, and the inking was very fun too. I really think the dead-eyed stare really ties it together, but after much hard work, I was ready to show off the fruits of my labour.
Jesus Christ! Oh, my eye!
Another satisfied customer. And with that, we moved on to commission number 3.
A tornado of angry shakmas. A shakmado, if you will.
Gary? Where are you now? Over?
I'm in the elevator.
For the £8 piece, I was ready to learn from my mistakes. To save a bit of time with colouring, I decided to change from pencils to the fill bucket. Why I didn't do this before, I don't know. I'm not smart, okay? It's a good thing I did, because it turns out that baboons are actually really fiddly to draw. Luckily, I managed to get a good variety of faces in, and I even had the foresight to add in a background. You know, so my monkeys weren't floating around in a desolate white void. But eventually, I reached the end of the piece.
For reference, here's the £2 and £4 ones.
Don't know why, but the first one reminds me of this meme.
I want the bullet time scene from The Matrix, but monkey.
By the time I started work on the £16 commission, I'd gotten a lot better at pacing myself. I had time to really add some polish to this one, so I threw myself into the flow and monkeyed like I'd never monkeyed before. Now, spoiler alert, this is the finished piece. Pretty happy with it, considering the time limit, definitely the most technically proficient so far. But considering this was the first piece where I actually had the time to draw what I wanted without time pressure eating into my technique, I figured I'd take a minute to share some digital art tips. Now I, like most cartoonists, draw my line art in black. It's the colour I nearly always drew in as a kid, and I nearly always animate with black line art for simplicity. But when I'm working on a still piece, I find I can make my line art pop a bit more by using other colours instead. Now obviously, if you want to draw with a different colour, you can decide which one you want before you start the piece, then just draw it as you would with a black pen. But I usually don't make that decision until I've finished my colouring, and I can figure out which colour will go best. And even if I picked a colour from the get-go, I wouldn't want to waste time redrawing in a different one if I change my mind. A quick way to change your line art colour is to make a copy of your line art folder, then merge everything in it so you have a copy of all of your line art on one folder. Next, make a clipping layer over the line art, which if you didn't know is a layer that can only draw over the colours of the layer beneath it. Fill in the clipping layer with the colour of your choice, and then have a play around until you find the one that you like. I had a lot of browns and greys in this piece, so I settled on kind of a dark navy blue. It's a very subtle difference from black, but I think it makes the finished piece look a bit more alive, if that makes any sense. Now next, I even had time to add a little shading. Now, full disclosure, I'm not very good at shading, and I very rarely add it when I animate because of how much time it adds to production. But I know the basics, and I figured I had a few minutes to at least try it. And anyway, by royal decree, this is my YouTube channel, and I'll give as much unqualified advice as I bloody well please. A common mistake beginners make in digital art is to do their shading in black, then turn down the opacity of the layer for the finish. This is okay for black and white stuff, but when you're using colour, it'll make your shadows look a lot flatter and muddier than they would do in real life. A much better alternative is to do your shadows in a dark shade of blue or purple. This way, the lighting looks a lot more soft and natural to your eye than it would do with black. But anyway, there's my tips. Here's what the client had to say.
Ha ha ha, this is great. Could I say the monkey looks a tad bear-like?
Now, that's the end of the video. But it's not the end of our story. If I can find buyers for the £32 and £64 slots, I'll donate the appropriate chunks of cash to charity and make a follow-up video. I'll draw basically anything within reason. As long as it has a monkey in it, the bar's pretty low. If you have a serious offer, hit me up on Twitter or send me an email. Preferably this one, because I'm terrible at checking my YouTube email, but if you want to help a good cause and have a funny idea, I'll try my best to get back to you. I didn't have anything planned for the credits, so here's some very cringy NFT art I found that I think's kind of funny. If you want to support artists, please don't buy NFTs. There's commissions, Patreon subs, merch. Just don't support this with your cash, please. I mean, look at this stuff. It's like that machine from the Lorax, where all it does is just pollute. It just pollutes. It just pollutes, man.